mine was more the Vietnam era. I'm a couple years younger than your dad, so you know, growing up in a military family, you know, I respect and honor people's commitment, and you know, in our family, you know, people were working in the copper mines in New Mexico, and for my father, this was a way out, and you know, we were proud of what he was doing, but I sort of had the assumption in my mind, well, when I'm old enough, you know, you go into the service, you go into military service, but you know, the 60s were a time when we were actually questioning things, even first as junior high, then as high school. You know, we were finding reasons maybe not to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, and in a way, that was almost peer pressure to do that. I mean, there was a lot of feeling about, you know, as we became aware that the Vietnam War wasn't the crusade we thought it was, and I did, although I didn't have to serve, I did, in my senior year of high school, register as a conscientious objector.
Okay.
I was not Brethren, I was Roman Catholic at the time, and I later learned that Roman Catholics have a great tradition of being conscientious objectors as well. But you know, I gave religious reasons. I had to think it through on this form. I turned it in. I had a very low draft number and assumed that I was going to go because I was number 30, and we were the first group not to get called up.
Wow.
So it's kind of a relief, I have to admit, a guilty relief that I didn't have to follow through. But this was before I'd made the decision to go to Laverne College, which was about 10 miles from where I lived at the time. I knew nothing about its Brethren heritage, only that my favorite teachers had gone to Laverne College. I later learned that many of them were Brethren, and that's why. But so I think I had sort of made the decision that it would be okay to take this stand and not serve, and indeed to be a conscientious objector. And then I discovered the Brethren. So maybe I did it backwards.
So in looking back at that, what maybe you can't pinpoint it to one deciding factor, but what made you change course from the path that your family had been going
and by
down?
the way, I was very supportive of Dad, and they, you know, when I discussed it with them some, I think they were supportive too, and kind of curious about it because it seemed so counterintuitive. But you know, I think back to 1968 and being in high school, the assassinations of Robert F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King, and you know, being raised in a more conservative home politically, watching the Democratic convention in Chicago and listening to people say those weren't police riots, you know, that this was those outside agitators. But as you began to examine and read, you know, I think you couldn't help but become aware that maybe what you were hearing wasn't what was happening. And so it was a gradual process. As I said, the real one moment is when I made the decision, I'm going to have to register, and I'm going to register as a conscientious objector. And you know, although I wouldn't say that a lot of my friends wanted to be conscientious objectors, as they spoke, one of the common themes we talked about was nobody wanted to be the last body bag out of Vietnam. Now, some of ours who served as conscientious objectors were also, also paid the full price of their service. But that was, you know, when you finally had to make the choice, when you were male in those days, and you had to register, I guess that's what I thought, I'm going to do it. So yeah.
I'm really glad to hear that you and your family members were both supportive of each other. I think that in our society, it's really easy for us to quickly go to the extremes. Either you're super patriotic and super supportive of the military, or you're super pacifist and demonstrating in the streets. Exactly, and they end up being caricatures of each other. And I think even though I grew up in a family of pacifists, that both culturally and historically, you know, I recognize that the people serving in our military are good people who want peace just like I do. This is how they feel called to try and make peace in our world. I may disagree with that, or with that practice, or that what's the word I'm looking for, with that journey to peace. But we all come at it from different viewpoints, and we need to remember that. Instead of attacking each other, we need to remember that when we're talking with each other.